Thank you so much, Mary. Now, bearing in mind that we have more than half an hour overrun now.
Yes, of course.
And people might have other appointments and duties in the afternoon. I would like to invite you to just allow for a couple of questions, which we take together, so you can answer them together. So I will read out to you the first question we have in our YouTube comments. Sorry, I need right. Could confirmation be conceptualized as the liturgical and canonical place for the individual to take on the lifelong commitment to the Church?
I think that's a wonderful question and not a bad concept at all. Unfortunately, confirmation does not, despite its name, the idea of confirming something, it does not perform that role. That is not the theology that attaches to it today. Quite the opposite. In fact, if you look at the confirmation ceremony, it says that we are renewing our baptismal promises, which is itself a fallacy, because we didn't make them in the first place. They were made for us. But someone once described confirmation memorably as a sacrament in search of a theology. And I do believe that that question and the idea that it posits does hold the key, possibly, or a possible key that might come out of a debate that we need to have about whether we will offer members of the Church something like the opportunity to accept or reject. The late Frank Morrissey, God rest him, that wonderful canon lawyer, his view was that children already have that right to accept or reject. And confirmation is a very good place, particularly with one of our bishops here in Ireland has suggested postponing confirmation until the age of around 15, 16, when the evolving capacity of the child is now in late adolescence, and they are capable of evaluating. After all, by then they will have had maybe 16 years of both home and school education in the Catholic faith, and that would be a good time for them to make a personal commitment. Unfortunately, that is not what we use confirmation for now. Regrettably, we now use it to enhance the obligations. And very often children are taking confirmation, at 8 years of age, 9 years of age, when again, they are not capable.
Yeah.
To being, milites et testes, witnesses for Christ in a much more affirming and much more energized way. But I think, yes, that question and the answer to it holds a possible key.
Thank you. Now, I would like to invite Thomas Schmidt to ask the last question for today.
Oh, what a burden. What I take home from your very thorough analysis is that you cannot have individual rights without the right of political participation. I mean, we impose membership in a political sense also on our children. They become German citizens, for example, by birth. But we not only give them the exit option to leave the state, but we also give them the option to participate in the government, to select and elect the government, and to get in office and hold politicians accountable. So this is, I would say, the backside or the joint side of the individual rights of not being imposed a membership. You actually are entitled to participate in the will-building formation of the community you belong to. And that is not the case. And I think all the contradiction you very subtly pointed out in the recent canon law is one hand, at least on the rhetorical level, they pretend to give individual liberties, but not open up the road to political participation and to participate in the government of this community. And that seems to me the internal contradiction in here.
That is absolutely it in a nutshell. I think you have summarized it brilliantly. And in the world in which we live, that in my grandparents' time, when they had no education and had none of the confidence that comes from education, they could not articulate that. We have the best educated generations now, and in the case of Ireland, they are educated thanks very often to the church. But now we exercise that education to say, hang on a moment. In our countries, in our democratic countries, we listen to debate, we participate in debate, we contribute to debate, we can stand for election, men, women, we can participate, we can help to shape the world around us. In the case of the church, that is not true. We don't have participative rights. There is not equality of participation, and worse than that, much worse than that, not only are we told what we must believe, we must obey the magisterium, we must accept the diktat of the magisterium in relation to whether it is reproductive rights, whether it is divorce, whether it is gay rights. We have to accept the church's teaching, having no opportunity to contribute. And then if we look at how the magisterium forms its view, we begin to see that the view is drawn from a very small pool. A tiny, tiny pool of people makes the magisterium what it is. It has inputs into the magisterium. And those people, in a sense, are selected. They're selected from a small pool, which in turn draws from a very narrow formation. And of course, we see it all the time nowadays. The poverty of church management is quite appalling. Why? Because they are drawing from, regrettably, they're not using the talent base that is available. God knows we've 1.2 billion people who are members. We have this extravagant, wonderful base of insight, commitment, faith, and prayer, and we just don't use it well. But I think that position cannot hold. I think you've expressed it very well. I don't believe that position can hold for the future.
Well, thank you very much, Mary, for these wonderful last words. Now, I hate to end this discussion now here, because I feel like we could go on, and there are many questions still to discuss. But anyways, I hope to invite you all and see you all here next year live, and we can have food together and sit together and discuss all night.